when it comes to just saving me time, this is the thing that really did it. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Practical Learning Professional from Better Everyday Studios. My name is Matt Jertson, founder and chief learning officer of Better Everyday Studios, and I am so excited to have you here today because this is our first episode. You know, there's obviously a lot of great content out there on the learning profession, especially on instructional design, but my hope with this channel is to bring a slightly different voice to the conversation. I try to bring a pretty practical voice to the field of learning and development, which probably comes from the fact that I started in the field as an instructor pilot. You know, I was literally teaching people how to not crash into the ground. So that brings me a pretty practical lens. And I hope the topic of this first video really illustrates that, because I want to talk to you today about something that has quite honestly saved me more time than anything else in my learning career. When I think back of all the tools and tips and tricks I've learned, when it comes to just saving me time, this is the thing that really did it. And that thing is VLOOKUP. Yeah, that's right. An Excel formula is the thing that has saved me more time than just about anything else. And I'm sure you're thinking to yourself, wait a minute, that can't be right. What does an Excel formula have to do with the field of learning? Well, the truth is that one of the most common things I got asked when I was inside companies was I would be brought a list of names and be asked the question, how many of these people have completed this course? Or some variation of that, right? You know, when did they complete it? All that kind of stuff. And though that might sound really simple, you're saying like, well, Matt, what do you mean? Like, we have a learning management system. We just take the list of names. We look up the names. No big deal. But what if it's not like 3 names? What if it's not 30 names? What if it's like 300 names? You know, and so you're left with this list of 300 people. You export maybe 3,000 names from the learning management system, and now you have to sit there and kind of one by one match them up. Maybe you put them all in alphabetical order, so it's a little easier for you to move through, but it's still just an incredible waste of time. And the truth is that VLOOKUP was built to solve this exact problem. So, and it took me a long time to figure it out. So I thought it would be worth spending a minute here to give it to you all. So let's just take a look at the formula right here. Ignore everything else, just look at this formula. So what we're talking about here is this formula, VLOOKUP, is comparing the information in cell A4 with the information in this range, this column C and D over here. And then it's going to return information in the second column of that range. Okay, so let's see how this looks using this simple example. I'll put equal here and we'll just see what it's going to do. Hit enter and it returns blue, right? So what it did is it took my name, compared it looked for my name in the first column of this range. It found my name, and then it went to the second column of that range, found blue, and thus returned blue. Okay, that's basically how it works. So let's use a very practical example here. So let's go back to this list of managers, right? This is the kind of list that you would get from a bunch of managers, where it's just, or a bunch of names, where they just say, hey, I want to know when all of these people completed this course. And you go to your LMS and you export a list of completions, and maybe you get something like this, right? It's got the names, it's got the completion, and it's got a bunch of information that you don't care about potentially, right? But the cool thing about VLOOKUP is you can leave it all there and it doesn't matter. So what we're going to do here is we go back to this initial list and we're going to write our VLOOKUP equation. We go equals VLOOKUP. The first thing we do is the lookup value, right? Like that's the way it was before. And so the lookup value in this case is Brittany Ears. That's what I want to do. So A2, I just click on that cell. And then I break up, just like any Excel formula, it's broken up by commas. So I'll enter a comma, and then it says table array. Where is the information that you're comparing this to? So I can go over to that list, and I can just select the whole range, right? B to G, right? Now, one key thing to notice is that I selected B, the column B is the beginning of the range, and not column A. That's because VLOOKUP is always going to look in the first column of the range. It's going to be trying to find the name Brittany Ears in the first column of the range that you select. So if I had selected A to G, then it never would have found it, right? Because Brittany Ears isn't in here. So I have to go from B to G, or in this case F. I can just go B to F, since that's where the information I want actually is. Okay, so now just like in Excel, we see our formula up here. So VLOOKUP equals A2, B to F. The next thing you have to put is in this range that you just defined, where is the information that you now care about, right? So it's gonna look for Brittany Ears in the first column, but where is the completion date for Brittany Ears? And in this case, since it's way over here, it's in the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th column. So we just put 5, and then the final thing that you want to put in this formula, you actually don't need to, but notice how you can put true for an approximate match or false for an exact match. Whenever we're looking up names, we always just put false, so that it's only going to find an exact match. And we hit enter, and there we go. So Brittany Ears completed this course on 8/14/2021. Pretty simple. And then if you've played with Excel before, you can expand these ranges just like this. Oops. And boom, now we have all the completion dates for all of these people. Now, a few weird quirks in here that I want to highlight. One thing to highlight is that it returns this date if it doesn't find anything, or if it finds the name but doesn't find a completion date. So if we, Chris Frock, if we went over here and found Chris Frock, I guess there's duplicates there. They haven't completed the course. So if it, if it doesn't find a completion date, then it returns 1/0/1900. So you can just delete those. And so now what we know is we know that of this list of 14 names that we were given, we have 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of them have completed the course. 4 of them have not completed the course. But then what's this? What's this NA? So if that 1900 date was, if it doesn't find a completion date, NA is what it does if it doesn't find the name that you told it to search for, right? That's where it's going to bring up this NA. And so this can happen for a lot of reasons, but I think there's some common ones. One of the most common things that will come up for you a lot in your learning profession is the fact that different systems within your company store names differently, or maybe people just go by different names. So the manager gave you this list of names, says John Smith. If we go back to the last line of this LMS export, notice there's Jonathan Smith is the name that is stored in the learning management system. So it's not going to find anything because it's just a formula. This is looking for an exact match. And so hopefully that's not too much of your data. If we go back in here and I change this to Jonathan Smith, and now it finds it, right? So hopefully that's not too much of your data, and you can pretty quickly, sort through it and find the information that you need. And that's it. That's VLOOKUP. One other thing I will make sure to mention is when you first run the formula, what very often happens is that the cells are actually listed as general, so no specific format. So here they're just giving you basically, I think it's the number of days since January 1st, 1900. That's what this number is. And so if you get a weird number like this, just know to select everything and change it to short date. And then it changes the format, and it's really simple. I mean, honestly, this has saved me more time than just about anything else I've ever used in my learning profession. It has absolutely nothing to do with learning, but it has everything to do with learning, and it's great for all of us to get better at Excel as we start to get closer to the business, make learning more data-driven. We all need to get better at learning Excel and a lot of more advanced numbers products and statistics products as well. But this should be a great way to get your feet wet if you're never really dabbled in Excel. And I promise you, this is going to save you a lot of time. So hope you found this helpful. We're going to have a lot more episodes like this. I look forward to it. We'll see you again next time on The Practical Learning Professional.